I'm Mason Mount. You're listening to the London is Blue podcast.
All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast, coming at you at a bit of an emergency recording session. Today is Thursday, June 4th. Been a hell of a day, honestly. And we are going to cover all of that. Myself, Brandon, joined as always by Nick and Dan. Dan, back from his anniversary. Glad to see your smiling face again as you ran away to the woods of, where were you, Portland area?
Bend, Oregon. So a little further outside. It was nice until we got hailed on 6 miles into a 7-mile hike.
Was it just around the river, Bend, Oregon?
Okay, Pocahontas. Thanks.
All right. Well, anyways, that's what you get for being out in nature. She fights back, Dan. So intruders in her area. But anyways, we brought Joe Tweeds in for this one because Twitter blew up, Joe. Everything has been all about Timo Werner, the Red Bull striker out of Germany. Reports coming from everyone, Simon, Matt Law, Bleach Report, I don't know, everyone really, just saying
Fabrizio Romano, come
there
on.
You go.
You
I didn't even see
one.
Alfredo Padula
Here
today.
we go.
I'm sure he was involved. But anyway, Tweeds, everything was Chelsea and Timo Werner agreeing personal terms, working on essentially his buyout clause, which is, what is it, right around 40, 50 million?
Yeah, I think it's 50 million euros. So whatever that is going to be in pounds, 45, 46 million pounds, something like that. Usually in sort of matters of this, they'll pay a little bit over the top to remove some of the other clauses or fees that are in there. So it'll probably be around 50 million pounds in terms of the fee they pay.
I'm in. Obviously, at about a week or so, his clause will go away, and now his value will be whatever Red Bull wants to negotiate. So this is an opportune time, Nick, for Chelsea or any team to strike. We've been in negotiations with players. We missed the deadline. Then their values all over the place. This would be a very cut and dry deal. And Chelsea seemed to have snuck in, according to the media reports, because he was as good as a Liverpool player as of 24 hours ago. Now, Liverpool all of a sudden have not made any contact with the player, or they've talked to the player, not with the club at all. They're asking for time, nothing official. This is where it stands.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that this came out a day after we published our first transfer pod in eons, where the Reverend Liam Toomey was talking about he's as good as a Liverpool player, and you know, frankly, that's all the news that any of us had really seen. It's outside of the agent Rudiger convinced me to come to Chelsea move. So it's super interesting that it happened so quickly, and it feels, Joe, at least to me, like there was a lot of smokescreen around Chelsea and other targets recently that could have been kind of laying the groundwork for this to come to fruition. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing that people will probably find sort of over this deal and maybe over the coming sort of weeks and months is that I think Chelsea have probably been one of the best teams at kind of strategically going after targets. And as maybe callous as it is in sort of the current climate, I think they're sort of fully aware of their position in this current market. You know, we sort of briefly touched on sort of pre-pod, the sort of financial situation that Liverpool find themselves in, the unlikelihood that City will buy players this window due to the impending Champions League ban and scrutiny around their sort of transfer activity. Arsenal probably have no money, as you know, that's a sort of typical Arsenal situation. And Spurs have just taken I think it's about £150 million loan for the Bank of England to sort of keep themselves going. So kind of with all that sort of in mind, you know, the sort of position that Chelsea find themselves in, particularly with that Alvaro Morata money hitting the bank account this summer, I think that they've just looked at Liverpool and gone, you know what, I don't think they can actually pull this off. So all of sort of the talk and all of the you know, kind of the posturing and sort of the mad sort of speculation that's been linking them there, I think the club have been sort of silently working in the background, a little bit like the Ziyech deal where they sort of came out of nowhere and just sort of pinched him. I think they've probably been doing very similar. And yes, I think it's fair to say that Werner probably would have preferred to go to Liverpool. I mean, playing for Jurgen Klopp, probably the best German manager on the planet right now, playing a sort of style of football that very would much suit him. However, I think the sort of the appeal of Chelsea, both in terms of the kind of the structure of his contract that's on the table, sort of the ability for him to come and play in straight away. You know, he's not competing against Mohamed Salah, Firmino and Mane, probably one of the most established front threes in world football for game time. But But also, again, I think that there is a little bit of an element that Frank Lampard maybe has a lot more pull than people originally gave him in terms of players. Ziyech has already sort of spoken about Lampard being a big factor. And I think a lot of this group of young players between 18 and 25 have grown up with Lampard as a sort of European icon in world football. They've seen what he's trying to do at the club, play young players, play an attacking style of football. And I think that is also something that swayed him. But yeah, Chelsea moving very sort of surreptitiously, something that we've seen in the past when they've sort of come out of the blue with these big moves, which is always really interesting for me to see how the club operates. So general rule of thumb, if Chelsea is sort of quiet and, you've got journalists sort of taking a little bit of a scattergun approach in terms of who the target is, Chelsea probably are quite laser focused on who they want. And they're probably working quite silently in the background. So it was really nice to see. I think for many, a surprise that we sort of, Chelsea might be in for him. Oh, it looks like they're in for him. Oh, hang on a minute, what's going on? And then sort of by sort of 4 or 5 p.m. in Europe, it was like, oh, hang on a minute, he's signed. Very, very kind of typical Chelsea transfer these days. So yeah, it was very interesting to see how it unfolded.
Wait, Joe. Wait. So you're telling me the fact that we were linked with like 15 to 20 to 30 players was actually just a distraction?
Possibly, yeah.
I mean, look, good for Yan. All right. He's always got someone to talk about. And I love watching Yan's videos. Dembele, that Ousmane guy from France, like everyone, right? Because it had seemed like this deal for Timo Werner was done. Like there's no point in entering the race. The player wanted it. Liverpool wanted it. Like it was just a formality. But, Matt Law tweets, Timo Werner has agreed to join Chelsea. More to follow. Okay, thanks. Thanks for the tease, Matt. Like,
yeah, way to slide that in there, just straight with the info.
Gosh,
there are plenty of times though when you've looked at something, you're like, man, I really want to go out and buy that, or like I want to have this thing, and then you open your wallet or you look at your checking account, like, I can't afford that right now. I mean, as a Red Sox fan, I've seen the Fenway Sports Group, which owns Liverpool, like sell off players and not be able to kind of re-sign or kind of go into some big extensions for I think some really talented players. And so I think Joe, I know tears, right? Tears. We've won World Series in my lifetime and not in my father's lifetime. So like that's I guess something to kind of consider too. Is it's not just that Liverpool doesn't have the funds. It's actually their ownership group that is struggling across all of their sports.
Well,
yeah, I think the telltale sign probably on Liverpool was when they pulled this investment for the new stand. They had very publicly, sort of started sort of leaking figures to local journalists and then to sort of journalists about this £60 million transformation of the Anfield Road end or whatever the actual name of the stand is. So I think as soon as I saw them publicly kind of can that, and then the furloughing of the staff and all of these sorts of things that kind of snowballed, that's when the kind of, I wouldn't say the rumours, but, when we were speaking, Brandon and I, a little bit before you guys joined about the signings that Liverpool have made since winning the Champions League. I mean, there are 4 of them, and I think I can name one of them. That's because he's got a bit of a strange name. But I mean, so, the 4 signings they've made since, winning the Champions League to capitalise on it have not been particularly great. And now you're coming to a situation where maybe they don't have as much money as people think they do, despite their position in the league, despite how well they've done in Europe. And I think Chelsea have just sort of looked at it and gone, you know what, this is our time to sort of pinch a player from under someone else's nose for a change. So, yeah, I mean, the club have acted, I think, very, very intelligently. Again, people will maybe be annoyed at how they're sort of flashing the cash during the current sort of times that we're living in. But, sometimes you have to press home your advantage, and it's not always the cleanest way of doing it. But as I say, if Timo Werner becomes a Chelsea player and scores 20 goals next season, I'm sure people will get over it very quickly.
You don't say. Well, the other tweet, the big one that really caused ripples, was Fabrizio Romano's. It says, Timo Werner is ready to sign his contract as a new Chelsea player until June 2025 on next days. Paperwork's time. He's English second language. We can forgive him. Liverpool have not sent any official bid to hijack the move. Chelsea will pay 55 million euros to RB Leipzig. Timo has already spoken directly with Frank Lampard. To which Miglisi on the old Discord said, did anyone else have to change their shorts? That is how out of the blue and how strong this hit us. Like, I was just minding my own business working remotely today, and then the waves came crashing, and it was fantastic. So
waves came crashing?
Isn't that what waves do? They crash into the beach, and you get pummeled by them. Anyways, Timo Werner, let me set the stage real quick. He's just turned 24 in March, so he's young. He has played well over 200 games in the Bundesliga, okay? He is a German international. He's been playing in the Bundesliga since he was 17, to give you some more context, and he's represented Germany at every level, starting at U15, and he has 29 caps already. So he's a mainstay of a very good European, if not world team. And honestly, he just, the only person that is kind of beating his pace right now is Kai Havertz. And, well, we all know how exciting he is as a player as well. So I just want to kind of give you that context before we go into it. So Shane asked Aerith Muggle, D-Dorm, I want Joe limited to 60 seconds and the rest of the episode consisting of unintelligible sounds of excitement, which I think we can all rally around, right?
Does anyone have Gary Neville on the line?
Just playing that sound on loop.
He's done it.
I love it. And then, Dan, I want you to ask your question to Joe because I feel like you have the emotional connection to this question.
Well, so I will say, I think we've talked about Timo Werner on this podcast multiple times over the past couple of years. And so for this to finally be like inches away from being done, super exciting. Made my Thursday, and what I think we can all agree has been really tough times with everything going on. This was like a really like bright moment for a day that all Chelsea supporters really enjoyed, particularly watching Liverpool supporters just evaporate from the internet. It was like the leftovers, but they took everyone who supports Liverpool off the planet. It was really amazing. But Joe, the real question that we have to get to is the era of Chelsea ruining football back?
That's a good question. It's a very good question. So part of me is imagining that during this lockdown, Roman Abramovich is tucked away somewhere, you know, as billionaires do, probably on a yacht, probably in some big mansion somewhere. And he's looking at his wallet that hasn't been open for a little bit when it comes to spending players. He sort of has a look inside and, you know, he looks at his sort of American Express card, which is whatever color the Billionaire Boys Club card is, I suppose, in terms of American Express. And he goes, you know what? Let's have a little spend. And yeah, I think that has kind of been the catalyst for this signing. I mean, obviously the Ziyech signing is fantastic. Add to that Timo Werner that looks very, very likely now. And all of a sudden you've addressed two of Chelsea's biggest issues from the season, which is real kind of intelligent creativity in the final third and goals. Both of them are big on goals. I mean, Ziyech this season stepped down a little bit, but that's, I suppose, because Ajax were asking him to be more of a creator than a finisher. But traditionally, Ziyech is a very good goal scorer, and Werner is a phenomenal goal scorer. So, you know, straight away, this sort of simplifying the transfer targets. What do we need? Goals. Okay, let's just go and get players who score them then, instead of, you know, sort of over-analysing people and sort of making it more complicated than it is. But I do think we're back, and I don't think that we're done. You know, all of the kind of news from the Matt Laws and the people that are a bit connected to the club seem to be hinting that Chelsea are looking at signing another big-ish player. So, you know, that's on top of Ziyech, that's on top of Werner. It could be one of those summers that I think Chelsea fans maybe look back in a couple of years' time as sort of the real beginning of a third era under Abramovich, particularly back to ruining football, because the tears from Liverpool fans were so overjoyous today. I mean, it's one of those things that makes you really happy to see them. You know, you go on YouTube, there's all of these like "Welcome to Liverpool" Timo Werner compilations that are suddenly disappearing. And it's annoying because I just want to watch the clips, you know. I'm not really bothered about the Liverpool context, but yeah, it's been a really, really fun day to see. And yeah, I only hope that we can go and sign another one or two really top players. And yeah, just to see the tears of other fans come back over a little bit of Abramovich dusting off his credit card.
Well, I mean, we talk about strategy on this show a lot, right? And not just transfer strategy, but on the pitch strategy and the way that the club is being built right now from the youth academy up. This signing is one of the, you know, Joe, you've talked about this on the show a bunch of times, right? Is you have essentially filled your squad with as many youth players as are ready for the first team.
Yeah.
And maybe even a couple who aren't quite ready, but are thereabouts. And then it allows you flexibility because their contracts and the lack of amortization on a fee allow you to go spend money. And both of the signings that we've made with Ziyech and Werner are not like exuberant amounts of money either.
No.
You know, I think that's the other thing that we're looking at is like sometimes strategy is going where another person isn't, you know, and like,
yeah,
I think that's a thing that, you know, excites me about this one is like, we suffered for a little bit, suffered for a couple of windows, but then bam, you know, we're going where other teams won't and can't per your financial analysis. So that's super exciting to me, man.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting to see it happen so early. But you know, for people that maybe have not listened to some of the pods that we've done in the past, you know, the benefit of not having to buy squad players, the benefit of not having to go out and buy, you know, we come up with the Danny Drinkwater benchmark, the DDB, you know, that sort of £12 million a year guy who's, yeah, exactly, yeah. How can I forget? You know, the guy who cost the club £12 million a year, twice what Reece James cost the club. You know, the fact that we're not looking for that level of player just to fill the squad out or just to have someone rotate in, you know, that they're comfortable with people like, you know, Mason Mount sort of coming in and establishing himself. Maybe he becomes a rotation piece, maybe not. You know, Reece James establishing himself as a right back. There's plenty of people that have come in, Tammy, you know, this season and potentially Billy Gilmore as well now, who've come in and really sort of made a claim for themselves. The fact that we no longer have to sort of worry about going in the market and getting, you know, Emerson Palmieri's, Zappa-Costas, Drinkwaters, Bakayokos. I mean, it's a real expensive list of players who are going to contribute absolutely nothing to Chelsea in the foreseeable future. So this sort of, you know, this philosophy of trying to get young players in allows you to go and buy, you know, Timo Werner, allows you to go and buy Ziyech, but also leaves scope for Chelsea to go and buy another 2-3 players of that kind of quality this summer. You know, in one sort of, you know, kind of season of not wasting money, the result is potentially adding 3 to 5 first team starters, which is crazy to think when we've had such probably, you know, really bad recruitment over the past couple of years, but bar sort of a couple of standouts. So it seems to be a nice little changing tactic for us.
Look, Ziyech for 33 million.
Yeah,
steal.
Insane. Yeah.
You know, Timo Werner, one of the, if you admit it, one of the best strikers right now on form in Europe.
Yeah.
50 million. And if you're telling me I can literally take the Morata money and rub my magic lamp and turn that into Timo Werner, like done. No brainer. Yeah. That seems like even in
That's the COVID upgrade button. That is the upgrade button.
In COVID-19 times too. So you just think about it like Chelsea are maybe starting to play a little bit of the long game. It seems like they did a lot of homework and were very prudent during our transfer ban to set themselves up to be strong financially. Now you add a global pandemic on top of that where teams were not prepared. This transfer ban it almost is like a blessing in disguise. And then we transfer banned ourselves in January. So like we at face value, because we have no inside knowledge of what it looks like at Chelsea, it looks like this ended up being, we have all this money coming out of this into this pandemic and everyone else is going down. And Chelsea haven't furloughed people. They've paid their playing staff. They paid their club staff. They've been donating resources. Like right now, Chelsea seem to be like the mega club that everyone wishes they were. But realistically,
even today, there was the other announcement that for season ticket holders, they could accept a refund. They can, you know, take the proceeds that Chelsea have claimed and put them towards, you know, actual donations to, you know, organizations that need funds right now, or kind of even put it forward. Like, you know, just in general, like this is just another reason to like love your club. Like Chelsea continue to do things right. Whereas you look at Tottenham taking a loan from the government, you look at Liverpool initially going to furlough people and then saying, oh, actually we won't do it. Like it's just an example that Chelsea have continued to find ways to do the right thing in what has been a really, really tough time.
So as we move into kind of breaking down Timo as a player, I just want to say the Metro reporting, so flags, right? Exclamation points, like take it for what it is, are reporting that they're going to pay him $200,000 a week and essentially make him Chelsea's second highest paid player. So that's kind of like the deal that even the Metro says Liverpool can't come close to offering that. And so Timo's like, well, if I want to go to London, I might as well get paid. And that's kind of how it has worked around that. And by the way, his release clause expires July 15th. So we do have some time, but we might as well just button this one up and bring him. Now, Joe, we're going to kick this off to you. So Gabriel on Discord says, and I think this is a good question for a wide variety of people. He just says, I would love a breakdown on why we as Chelsea fans should be excited about this signing? Is he fast? Is he good on the ball? Basically, what makes Timo Werner in such high demand? And again, I'm not saying it's because Gabriel has no idea who this guy is. I think this is a really good baseline just to be like, who is Timo Werner? Why is he so highly rated?
So I think from an analytics perspective, Werner has a non-penalty expected goals of like 0.83, which is utterly ludicrous. I mean, to be fair, okay, that is absolutely insane how high that is. But even the season before, he was like 0.52, 0.55, which again, taking out penalties, 1 in 2 is a really, really good rate for a striker who sort of doesn't play as a sort of a traditional number 9. So I think for analytics, and you look at his shot volumes, his ability to create shots for himself and others, all of these sort of super important attacking metrics that seem to correlate with people that are good. Timo Werner is either leading in the Bundesliga or it's just Jadon Sancho above him. There's not a huge sort of difference between the outputs of those players in terms of the expected goals and those sorts of numbers. Looking away from the numbers somewhat, I think that he is probably one of the few players in world football that just has sort of sprinter speed. He is one of the quickest players, both with and without the football. And I think for people that are excited by Chelsea playing with a bit more pace and a bit more directness, he certainly fits the bill there. But I think that the most distinct quality that he has is he is probably one of the best finishers I've seen in European football for the past couple of seasons. By finishing, I don't just mean the fact that he can come through and score, but really, really top centre forwards, they have distinct finishes is when they're kind of through in different positions. It was something that Thierry Henry was famous for, Nicolas Anelka, players that have that distinct shape and style when they shoot. And the positions that Werner seems to get himself into a lot is this kind of inside left channel. So, kind of between the edge of the penalty area on the left-hand side and sort of the edge of the D, that sort of channel he's in there. And you'll see him do two things: either wrap the ball around the goalkeeper's the goalie's left-hand side, so into the far right-hand corner, or power sort of near post. And that is with like unerring regularity that happens. And I like seeing players that have that ability to just have that finish in their head. Often, a lot of strikers overthink when they get through on goal, particularly 1-on-1. I think someone asked me a couple of days ago, like, which Chelsea player at the moment would you trust, put all of your entire life savings and all of your families, on beating a goalkeeper 1-on-1, and I couldn't really think of someone that jumped out. And I think that's where Werner comes in, is I think he would be our best finisher. In terms of Chelsea, for me, I don't think he's a centre forward at the moment. I think he's most likely going to play from the left-hand side. And I think all that you really want him to be tasked with is scoring, linking up with Tammy Abraham, and generally providing a kind of threat in behind, and someone who will, I think, drive right backs and right centre backs crazy with his movement in that channel. So I think really, really top player. I mean, everyone can see the goals and the assists he has this season. I think it's like 35 in 41 games in total, or something absolutely ludicrous. Maybe that comes down in the Premier League, but I still think that this is a guy who is going to get a lot of goals at Chelsea, both in terms of stuff that he makes for himself, stuff that he gets on the end of, but just a player that has all of the athletic characteristics you want in a Premier League player, with the finishing ability and the pedigree that I think you'll see of a German international as well.
So, Nick, Who Scored has Timo Werner's characteristics as very strong at finishing, which is good for a forward, strong at holding onto the ball, strong at passing, and key passes. So not only can he finish, he can create for someone he's with. It just says his style of play, he loves the counterattack threat. I think that fits Chelsea. Likes to cut inside, talks about why he might drift out to the left, likes to play short passes and combine, likes to dribble. If you take that stuff into consideration, I mean, whether or not Lampard wants to get rowdy and play a front 2, or you play a front 3, or you play like that 4-2-3-1, or, 2 pinched in behind the wheel, whatever you want to do. It sounds like he offers some flexibility, but from just a play style, like that shouldn't be a hard transition for this guy.
I'm smiling because I'm imagining combinations such as the following: Ruben Loftus-Cheek to Werner to Abraham, goal. Pulisic drives in from the right, cuts across the goal, Werner, goal. Ziyech playing as a number 10, Werner, Abraham, some combination, goal. Like, it's scary. I mean, and what's funny about that is we are, or at least I'm still thinking of Tammy Abraham as our number 9. And I think it's a credit to him that I'm still thinking of him that way. That, if Werner plays more frequently on the left and is able to kind of drive up as a second striker and someone else drops back in a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, there's a lot of positional flexibility there that I think would give right backs and right center backs absolute nightmares, Dan. I mean, like, that's you take a Ruben Loftus-Cheek in a 4-3-3 and he advances up the field, you already have problems. Then you double your problems by passing out wide. Then you triple your problems. But it's just like, good luck with that.
Well, there's every goal that Timo Werner has scored this season, the Bundesliga video that we retweeted out from their English account. And the amount of times that you see him from deep, almost at a standstill, accelerate and move past a defender is something to be really excited about. It's something that Tammy has been really good about, just at pace, basically being able to kind of recognize, okay, I know the ball is going to get there, so I can slow up for a bit and then completely blow past. If you have 2 or 3 or 4 players who can do that across your front 3 or your front 4, I don't want to be over excited or make an overstatement, Joe, but do you think Chelsea have gone into top 10 in world football in terms of a front 3?
What a projection!
Timo Werner?
What a projection!
I love that build up, and then
oh man.
Okay, I'll qualify it with this. I think if you look at,
I don't know.
I'm going to be positive here because I'm riding the crest of the Thursday wave. Well, technically it's Friday here, but yeah, the Thursday wave. I think that Chelsea now potentially have one of the best sort of under 23, 24 attacking setups in world football. And I think, again, if you're looking at a group of players that are going to develop over the next few years and play in a certain style and play together, by the time that these guys have had 2-3 seasons together, okay, Ziyech will be sort of in the latter part of his 20s, but certainly for, Pulisic, Hudson-Odoi, Tammy, Werner, etc., they're going to be sort of mid-20s. I think the sky's the limit then, and I think that the really important thing now is that certainly with Timo Werner coming in and Christian Pulisic being fit again, the amount of pace that Chelsea would have on the counter-attack is scary. When we start playing, against Liverpool and City and some of the bigger teams where we like to play on the counter, having those two up top, instead of maybe Willian and Pedro is a little bit different. Because, it's a different mentality as well. They both want to get in behind. They both want to attack the goal. I think certainly when we're playing on the counter, one of the things that we've seen a few times over the course of the kind of the Wedro, as I like to call them, the hybrid of Willian and Pedro, the Wedro era, is that they do like to sort of slow the game down occasionally. We see like Willian likes to slow it down and then sort of speed it back up again. So I think it'd be nice to just see Chelsea counter and Werner and Pulisic just go in behind, use that pace, stretch teams. So yeah, I just think it's really exciting to see. I'm super glad that the club has looked at an opportunity that that's kind of been presented to itself through inopportune circumstances, and actually I think that the signing is going to make Chelsea an incredibly efficient team up front. Even if he scores 15 goals next season, that's like infinitely more than what we've had from Wedro over the past couple of seasons. So I think it's just all round in terms of what he's going to add to us, not just sort of pace and that kind of threat that he has, but his actual finishing ability and his ability to score goals will be huge.
The goal that I'm seeing, Brandon, really quick, is the goal that the Willian goal against City in 2016.
Oh yeah,
that's the one.
Yep.
Because the speed is going to be tough, and if you get Pulisic, by the way, Ziyech isn't slow.
No,
you look at some, when Cal gets going, Cal can go.
Hudson. It's a really quick front four.
So yeah, it's just. Pick your poison on who to stop with that. And if Tammy gets stronger and is able to hold the ball up, he's never going to be Diego Costa body style, right? But if he's able to make that key pass, there is a ton going on there.
So again, Timo Werner's 29 appearances in the Bundesliga, 25 goals, 7 assists, a goal every 96 minutes. In the Champions League, he has 8 appearances, 4 goals, 2 assists, contributing a goal 3 out of every 4 games.
Plus a goal versus Spurs in the Champions League too. So you already know how to score against Spurs. Sign him up.
And he plays in the German Cup, 3 appearances, 2 goals, 3 assists. So he is I'm just painting a picture of consistency. And there's nothing more valuable in world football than a consistent goal scorer. You need it. We've missed it ever since Diego's left. We felt a good upswell with Tammy and Pulisic and Jorginho and Barkley and everyone kind of chipping in this season. Alonso. But we didn't have the 20-goal striker. Timo Werner is far and beyond that.
Real quick, but so just to pin though, I think that people are gonna look at this, Joe, and be like, okay, like Chelsea are back, we're going after big name players. I think we can say that this puts to bed fully the idea of Jadon Sancho transitioning probably to Chelsea and then to the Premier League at least this window, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm not painting a picture of false hope here, but just to sort of give a little bit of context on the situation. So Jadon Sancho has essentially come out and told Borussia Dortmund that he will not sign a new contract. I think he has 2 years left on his contract. If they let him play next season, and he's obviously in his final year, they won't sell him. He will play, he'll probably play 2 seasons at Dortmund. I think a club will convince him to get to January, and then they'll try and sign him on a free transfer in January. So he might be in Germany for a little bit longer, but I mean, if you're, for 3-4 months from August to January, whatever, you're not going to pay £120 million for the privilege of getting someone in 4 months early. Most teams won't. Maybe Manchester United are crazy enough and will do it, but I would imagine most teams are not going to pay that sort of money for a player that they can sign in a couple of months. So I think this window, for all of kind of Dortmund's posturing, this is the window that they would like to not get rid of Sancho, but this is the one where they'll have the opportunity to capitalise on the hype around him. He's got just a ridiculously insane level of production this season. But I think if they let him get into the final year of his contract, they'll find that teams, a little bit like Hazard, the sort of money we got for him, maybe it would have been a lot more had he had 2 years left on his deal, for example. So I'm not sure if the COVID situation is really playing to their strengths because, they wanted, I think the fee, the highest I saw it was £140 million, went to 120, it's 100 million euros. I think today there was a rumour that Manchester United bid 70 million euros for him. So it's shrinking kind of by the day. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone kind of goes to bat for Sancho and tries to take him. This will be the summer to do it, potentially only for a handful of clubs. And then I think next summer, Dortmund will be absolutely panicking because, again, I can't see anyone paying anywhere near the sort of money that they potentially would have got for him if this season had been a little bit more normal. So, yeah, I'm not going to say it's completely not there. I still think that he'll stay in Germany. I think that it's probably in his best interest of his own career to stay there one more year and then sort of move and get a slightly better deal for himself. But I wouldn't put it past Manchester United to see that Chelsea are starting to move a bit in the market, realising that they need to close the gap on us while we're trying to close the gap on those above us, and that they probably see Jadon Sancho as the route back to doing that. So I wouldn't put it past them, but yeah, I mean, for the money that Dortmund want, I find it very unlikely unless they compromise on that quite significantly.
Well, this Who Scored article was, citing a lot of sources and stuff, but it says, it wasn't that long ago that Bayern Munich were also stated as being the hands down home of Timo Werner. No idea why that's gone away, but I don't want to know. I just want it to go away. Manchester United, Joe, we're also monitoring him as you're talking about Manchester United trying to reclaim their glory days. But they dropped out because they decided to extend Odion Igalo's loan. So,
naturally, yeah, of course.
Exactly what you do if you want to play.
Yeah, are you saying you wouldn't do that?
They're basically the same player, to be fair. So
what?
I get it.
Did he even? Anyways, whatever. To me, if Chelsea sign a player that Liverpool, United, Bayern were genuinely interested in, this is a sign of strength and an intent from the club.
100%.
And I think that's what I'm taking out of it just as much as everything. Now, it hasn't been done yet, but it doesn't mean we can't react and get excited and say, if this does come off, everything that's preceded in this conversation is completely valid and relevant. And I think that's the most exciting part. We probably wouldn't have done this for extending an Odion Igalo's loan spell. I don't think we would have jumped to an emergency pod. This is the type of level of signing that Chelsea potentially are getting. So anyways, before we go though, Big Nash and Mr. Thurman, Nick, they've got a bit of a challenge for you, because as the self-proclaimed nickname master, Big Nash says we have Tam Tam for Tammy, Tom Tom for Tamori. Is it Tim Tim for Timo? If not, what cool nickname would you give our new signing? And Mr. Thurman, it is your birthday. I will give you a shout out, but I will not read your nicknames. I apologize. It's for you, my man. I'm doing you a favor.
But Tom Tom was like a web extension back in, like, we don't need that.
It's actually like a GPS equivalent.
Tom Tom was
you're right,
GPS,
Yeah.
I was thinking of Duck Duck Go then, or one of those things.
Ask Jeeves.
So you ask a fake butler to Google things for you.
Ask Jeeves is like what Manchester United's department is using to find players.
Yeah.
Like, that's how advanced they are.
Who is good 2020?
Yeah, it's Jerry from Parks and Rec going to Alta Vista to search his.
That's the one, Alta Vista. Yeah. Yes.
You've got, he's fast, the Werner burner.
Ooh, okay. There's
okay.
something there. Timo.
It'll be
Timo.
But Thurman had something about like Timon and Pumbaa.
That was
a stretch.
Yeah,
that was a stretch. Either way, I'm excited to get him in the kit. I'm excited to see the photos, him and Marina, socially distanced, signing the contract.
Just a distance handshake.
Maybe via Zoom. They like do that thing where like
the TNT one for Tammy and Timo is probably that's kind of my favorite.
The only problem with that is too simple. As Joe said, we're gonna attack with 6. All right. So this is gonna be T.
By the way,
W.
TNA is not gonna be it, Mr. Thurman. Sorry. I see where you're going with that, but I don't know if that's gonna be the one. I will allow me to get back to you, Mr. Thurman and Big Nash. Allow me to get back.
Before we disembark, I think we should ask Joe, what's the next area of immediate need? What's the next
you just don't give up tonight.
Oh, no, I'm not.
You give Dan an inch. He's taking a mile tonight. He's like, Chelsea are back, ruining football. Greatest team in Europe. Now who else?
Inject it. Next position that we do an emergency pod on. What do you think it is?
I think. Okay, so my preference would be to get a left back in next. I think get a left back in, get your full back sorted, and then I'd be comfortable about the back four going into next season. But I feel, certainly looking at all of the rumours that are swirling around, that Chelsea are after another attacker, and it could be a big one as well. So, it could be an emergency pod for Chelsea signing another relatively stellar sort of name as well. So if we get 2 big names in this window, it will be absolute pandemonium on Twitter, and it will be absolutely hilarious as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. The ruining football is back, and it's always better on social media.
It's a good look for Chelsea. Not a lot of teams can pull it off. Like Newcastle, they were going to like, hey, we're going to ruin football. You're like, yeah, we don't know. No, that's not your thing. This is our thing. Let us do it. All right. Anyways.
Yeah, you can have Ross Barkley for $48 million.
And that's just never mind. All right. A lot to come, obviously. But when you see Matt Law tweet so matter-of-factly about a signing, you feel good enough to make a video, an emergency pod. So, Joe, thank you for staying up into the very early hours of the morning. I'm glad your work schedule aligned to give us this opportunity, sir. So thank you for that. Nick?
And stop taking your shirt off and running down the streets in Denmark, okay? Just keep it cool.
We saw the reports.
Yeah, keep it cool, man. Jeez.
I will try to do that. Yeah, and quickly before we go, I just want to give you guys a shout out for, all of the stuff you've been doing for the Black Lives Matter charities over the past couple of days. It's been incredible to see, and obviously the amount of money you guys have raised in such a short period of time it gives me a bit of more hope from what's been a pretty tough sort of week and a half. So yeah, really, really credit to you guys for doing that. It's fantastic.
Look, we're just the common factor amongst a ton of amazing people. right? We just put out the call. So many people without hesitation stepped up and answered, and we couldn't be happier, Joe, to have so many like-minded, selfless people that happen to be Chelsea fans in our community, and we are so blessed. And so, yeah, I will accept it and then share it around as it should be. So appreciate that. All right, well, that's a wrap. 40 minutes later, Timo Werner to Chelsea. Let's effing
Timo
go.
Werner to Chelsea?
Let's fucking go.
Timo Werner.
To be determined, Nick. I'll buy you a drink and help get the creative juices flowing.
I have a driver that's a burner. It's a tailor-made burner. So I like that.
I can't wait for you back at the driving range just yelling, Timo Werner. All right, Chelsea fans, well, that'll wrap us up. You'll be hearing from us soon. Hopefully we have some more emergency pods to release. By the way, the transfer window is not even open, and we've already got Ziyech and potentially Werner. So things are looking up. But until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.